In 2016, I was able to buy two Wrigley Field Cubs tickets for the World Series at face value. This is how I did it. During that time, the Cubs didn't win the World Series in 108 years, and it was unheard of getting tickets at face value. The markup for the tickets, the average was for these tickets was anywhere between $2,600 and $3,500. Some of the most premium tickets in row one were going like $80,000 to $100,000 for Game 4 of the World Series. My friend at work, Dave Signoretti, also a Cubs fan, told me he heard, and his mother, through a friend, was able to get tickets for Game 3 at face value because, and this is the secret, I don't know if it works today, but every home game, the home team reserves 200, 300, 400 tickets for the visiting team. Just courtesy seats for friends, players, families, coaches, etc. They're VIPs. And it's a courtesy, and then in return, when the other team goes to the other field, they reserve them some tickets too. And when these VIPs, the family, friends of the team, of the visiting team, does not visit, they put these out on the market for a sale to the general public. So I took the next day off, and that's what I did. I'm like, I'm gonna go early, so I couldn't take the yellow line because it wasn't running yet. So I took the 5 a.m. Red Line train from Howard Station to Addison and got to Wrigley Field and got in line at around 5:35 a.m. There were already, I counted, 115, 118 people in front of me. And I assumed they'll buy the maximum 2 tickets each. I'm like, oh, there's a chance I'm not going to get it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try and give it my best. And then I assumed they're going to let 30 people budge despite the no budging policy. And despite security, which was really bad, there was only one security guard for hundreds of people. The one thing that was shady was they let everybody in wheelchairs chairs first in the front of the line. I understand that. But an hour later, what pissed me off is they moved the ticket booth to 50 yards to the east. And then all the people in front of the line in wheelchairs, they got out of all their wheelchairs. It was a miracle, and they ran to the new line. So they were using the wheelchairs just as a scheme. They lied basically just to move to the front of the line. That was so shady, and it was not enforced. There was not enough security because there was only one. 5 hours later, they got 3, but that still was not enough. A lot of people budged. But by 8:30, I managed to get in line again. I actually moved up 10 spots in my rush because you want to play the odds, and while everybody's running one way, you have to look at the path of least resistance. People tend to run right because most people are right-handed. So I ran left a little, and I was able to move up. But there were a lot of shady people moving up. I bet over 90% of the people in line were resellers. There's hardly anyone wearing Cubs gear, hardly any fans. A lot of hoodlums, who have never been to a baseball game in their life. Luckily, the guy sitting next to me, he was a scalper too. He was from Florida, but he looked like he knew what he was doing. He brought his laptop, his $5 folding chair, and I was just talking to him, and he does this for a living, especially on the Super Bowl, the World Series, NBA Finals. He knows about these tickets left aside for the opposing team. And he said since the Cubs did not win the World Series in 108 years, and since it was a big city market like LA or New York, the premiums, the money you could make was crazy. He was thinking there's a chance he might not get tickets because of where we were, but if he did, he was gonna like 6 times his money, maybe more. And he's like, if you do this year round, you usually double or 3 times your money, but for like Cubs, like back to back games at Wrigley, like he did well, and he did it for a living. And yeah, he's like, I don't really have a full-time job, Mark. This is what I do, and I'll fly the cheap red eye fly, and I'll just sit and wait. I'll make my money, and then it pays for itself, and then I have my spending money for like 4 weeks. Around the other thing I prepared for is I brought my phone chargers in my backpack, a couple Gatorades, protein bars, granola bars, and I just waited from like 8:30 to 2:30. The line did not move. Security got better. One guy got arrested. Lots of shady people. The police started going up and down because the line got kind of rowdy. People like really pushing and threatening to get in. It got uncomfortable. It's not for the faint of heart. Because money talks, and it brings the worst out of people. MLB is a business, just like everything else, so you can't argue, oh, what about the real fans? Like, money talks. Even when it comes down to like fandoms and being a great fan, oh, but I'm a great fan, money comes first. That's why, like, you can't get mad at the owners or players. You know, sometimes these players, their window of opportunity is only like 1 to 3 years, and then they have nothing else in their life. Emotions get really big, and it brings out the worst in people. I got my ticket at 5 p.m. I couldn't believe it. And after 10 minutes after I got my ticket, the line ended. So they ran out of tickets. They sold out. So hundreds of people after me, maybe like 400 people after me, did not get a ticket and waited all day for nothing. But I couldn't believe it. And after I got the ticket, I immediately secured it. I gave the other ticket to my friend who was with me, Ryan Ulrich. He went with me to college at U of I years prior, and we were just in shock. We were like hugging and jumping up and down. I had like a tear flowing down my eye. I couldn't believe it, waiting like almost 12 hours just for tickets. I'd go to games sometimes for like $25, $30, and I paid like $300 an inning. $300 for one game, $35, $40 an inning. The bad thing is, even like by inning 5, I was falling asleep because I was so tired. But right after I got the ticket, like 2 minutes after, a minute after, Darren Rovell from ESPN interviewed me because I was just jumping up and down with my friend. And he's like, hey, can I interview you? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. He's like, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel great. Like, how long were you waiting? I'm like, 12 hours. I feel like shit. And I guess they bleeped that out on the interview. But out of like his 100 interviews, I guess they chose mine, and it made local news and ESPN and Twitter, and it made the rounds and got thousands of views. I remember John Lackey was pitching. Cubs got off to 1-0 lead, and I was so happy, and they lost. Lackey blew it. They lost the game 7-2. Cubs went down to Cleveland 3-1. I was so depressed, but at least we got to go to a World Series game at cost. And it only cost me a lot of stress and waiting in line. And I'm glad I did not pay the off the street prices, like $2,000 for each one. And what made it really great was they actually won the World Series in Game 7. And that was, 3,580 days ago. The greatest day of my life. And that was the craziest thing I ever did, trying to get tickets. Pardon the camera. I am partially paralyzed in my right hand. I don't have a tripod. I'm doing this video off a crappy iPhone 13, but I had to document my 100 stories in case something happens with my health. So, and I'm not gonna wait till my health gets better. Who knows? And I'm not gonna buy like $1,000 equipment, and because no one's watching these videos anyway. I'll get a couple dozen to watch these videos. But that's how I did it. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate your time. Here's some other things I kept from that season. I kept the game season schedule. I should have kept more of my train passes. I saw the musical they made called Miracle, and I kept the sticker. I remember after the Cubs won the World Series, like even the stupid sticker they gave out in the stadium was going for like $25, and like a bus ticket, a used bus ticket that people threw out, one for 10, and the schedule was going for 25. But that's the crazy story, how we got World Series tickets to Wrigley Field for face value. Would I do it again? No. But I did it once, and I went to the World Series once, so that's one off my bucket list, especially the greatest moment of my life when the Cubs won the 2016 World Series. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and be safe.